scientific truth. Yes, my child. Use my leaves and twigs however much you want. Please be happy. Yes, my son. Take my branches. All of them. Take 'em all. Please be happy. Yes, my brother. You found your place to sit together with me. Together we're one. Together forever. All of us. Every one of us. Every single one throughout history. Before history. Beyond history. To make a history no longer guided by laws, nor physics, nor logic, nor common sense. For without reason, things start making sense. To create a land, one without balance, one without gods, one without malice, one without lies, one without malice. One where we could be joyous, cheerful, merry, fun, easy, productive, calm, wild, fortunate, simple, delighted, cherry, carefree, playful,